Hey everybody, this is David, and today I'm going to be talking about The Flash, Episode 6, The Flash is Born. So yes, The Flash finally officially gets his name out there to the public because Iris is writing an article about him. She's been blogging about him since the last episode, maybe the last 2 episodes, and yeah, she's still blogging about him in this episode, despite the warnings that Barry and her father has given her already. And unlike Laurel from Arrow, I'm gonna say I didn't mind Iris in this episode. I'm kind of annoyed that she didn't listen to Barry, but I guess at the end of the day it was okay because now there's these other people with powers that are coming out and she's also writing about them. So that's pretty cool, I guess. So now it won't, like, if she's not just centering on the Flash, maybe, okay, people will be like, oh, she's just reporting about all these kind of characters that are out there. And that could be good for her. That could help her be an advantage for Barry. And yeah, so I thought she did a lot more here than Laurel has done in all 3 seasons of Arrow. Just saying. Even though she did get into trouble in this episode and was kind of annoying that, like, we knew that was going to happen. We knew since the last episode, since Barry was warning her, that we knew something like this was going to happen, that the bad guy this week was gonna go after her and harm her in some way. She was lucky she got away, but I did like that punch that she gave him at the end, the bad guy, and after Barry was knocked out and after Barry knocked the guy out and she like knocked him out right after, finished him off. I thought that was a pretty cool scene. And yeah, again, it solidified Iris as a pretty cool character. She did a lot in this episode, or a little bit more than, yeah. I'll leave it at that. Speaking of the bad guy, I thought the bad guy was the Man of Steel in this episode. No connection to Superman. You know, I saw that joke coming a mile away. As soon as I learned that, you know, the bad guy was someone who could turn to steel, I thought either they're going to make an X-Men reference to Colossus, or they're going to make a Superman reference and call him the Man of Steel. And they did, and like 5 minutes into the episode, they already referenced Man of Steel. So I saw it coming, but it was still cool. I liked it. Personally, the character himself, I didn't care much for, but I think everybody can relate to that. When you were a kid, everybody can relate to, you know, being someone who was bullied and wishing to have superpowers to take care of the people, you know, that always picked on you, because you know, with superpowers, people couldn't stand up to you. Even though this guy was a little bit of a competition to Barry, you know, he still was pretty hard to beat at the end of the day. You can't help but have fun with the idea of having superpowers when you were a kid and, you know, stopping the bullies from picking on you and maybe everyone else. I'm gonna admit it, I was one of those nerds. Sadly. But yeah, I mean, like, it's a cool episode, especially if kids are watching this show, which I'm sure there's a lot of kids watching The Flash. The Flash, what I really like about it compared to Arrow is that it's more of a lighter toned series. There's some like dramatic elements in there too, but I think they know how to balance it really well with the lighthearted stuff, and I think that's what makes The Flash enjoyable and heartwarming to watch. I think there's a lot of stuff there for the older fans and kids to enjoy as well. I think there's a good mix there. I'm actually surprised that there were flashbacks in this episode, because I thought the flashbacks, they haven't been playing heavily with the flashbacks on The Flash. And so it was kind of surprising to me to see it in this episode, because I think in the last 2 episodes we haven't really seen it. There was for sure 1 episode so far that did not have no flashbacks at all. So I was kind of surprised to see them back in full form this week. But they were good flashbacks, I thought. I mean, we even got to see Joe training Barry a little bit how to fight. And speaking of Joe, I really liked his storyline today, where he's like continuing to investigate Barry's mom's murder, and how he was, talking to Dr. Wells about it, and maybe even suspecting him of being somehow involved with it. And maybe he was, because, this episode, I've been trying to fight myself being convinced that he's the Yellow Streak. But if there's any episode that's really convincing me right now that maybe he is, even with his backstory on what he said, I still think he's somehow connected to it all. It's this episode, definitely. This episode, especially at the end there, where the Yellow Streak comes to Joe while he's working, and, it's like going all over the house, looks like it was gonna kill him, and then just leaves a threatening note on his wall with a picture of Iris and a knife stuck in there. I mean, that was freaky, man. And it just makes me wonder even more now, is Dr. Wells the Yellow Streak? And personally, I still don't want to think it's him. But this episode is really trying to convince me that he is. And if that's what they want me to think, they're doing a really good damn job at making me think that way. If they're trying to hide the fact that Dr. Wells isn't the Yellow Streak, well, then they're doing a pretty bad job at hiding that revelation. Because once the Yellow Streak came at the end, again, I'm totally convinced now that he's the Yellow Streak. Even though I'm hoping it's Eddie. Because if you know the comic books, the Reverse Flash, who's that Yellow Streak you've been seeing, I'm going to spoil something that might or might not come into play in the TV show, because the show doesn't have to follow what the comics have done. They can do a huge departure, and I think they might, because they don't want fans to already know that character. Because Eddie has been a really, like, especially in this episode, if you watch him, he trained Barry a little bit. He gave him some tips on how to fight. And Eddie is kind of a likable character. There's nothing to really hate about him. He hasn't done any, like, bad things to Barry. He was actually pretty cool to him in this episode. And so it makes me wonder if they're doing that on purpose, to throw us off, to make us not think that Eddie might be anything involved in that. Or is Dr. Wells really the Reverse Flash, the Yellow Streak that we've been seeing? I don't know, man. This is pretty interesting. And the reason why I think Eddie is the Reverse Flash, or he could be, is because, if you look at the name of the Reverse Flash, Wikipedia it or something, the name it's different, but it's very close. I don't know how to pronounce it right now, but it's very close to Eddie Thawne's name. And that's why I'm suspecting Eddie to be the Reverse Flash. I could be wrong again, but there is an upcoming episode. I think it's going to be the last episode of the winter season, right before the break. So in 3 weeks, there is an episode that's going to be titled The Man in the Yellow Suit. So we are going to most likely find out in that episode. We're going to have to see. There are already some pictures leaked. I'm not going to show them. But yeah, we can't really tell who it is in the yellow suit. But there are pictures of already the man in the yellow suit. And that's for sure going to be the episode that's going to come into play and have that most likely be revealed. We'll still have to see and find out. So, final thoughts. I really enjoyed this episode, guys. I really enjoyed everything about it. There were some things that could have been better, but for the most part, it was a solid episode, and I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. It was a lot of fun. I really liked all the characters in this episode, even Iris. Iris didn't annoy me that much. So they're doing a better job at Iris than they are with Laurel from Arrow. So I'm happy with that a little bit. I'm hoping Iris will eventually find out Barry's identity, though, because, and I know the writers and producers of Arrow, they don't they, just like Arrow, they don't like secret identities. And I have a feeling eventually, I don't know when, but I have a feeling eventually Iris will find out Barry's identity soon. We'll have to wait and see. So yeah, I can't wait for next week. Next week looks really cool. It looks like we're going to get an Electro type character. And we got the Clock King. The Clock King is going to be coming to the Flash. We saw him on Arrow last year, and he was a pretty cool character. They had a really good actor playing him. I forgot the actor's name right now, but I remember him from Heroes. And yeah, it's going to be cool to see the Clock King, the first villain from Arrow, coming over to the Flash. And hopefully we get more things like that. Like, I want to see some Flash villains crossing over to Arrow. Let's see Oliver take care of some Flash villains also. I would like to see, Captain Cold go over to the Arrow one day, I mean, if Batman can fight Mr. Freeze, why can't Arrow fight Captain Cold? I think that's fair. So, guys, until next week, I can't wait. Yeah, subscribe to my channel to make sure you see more Flash reviews and Arrow reviews and Gotham reviews, as well as many movie reviews that I enjoy watching and telling you guys what I thought about those films. So, until next time. See you in a flash. No, I won't say that.